Hi, everybody. Really excited about this episode of the North State Rocks podcast. To have Weston Hutchings, who you're going to see here in a moment. He is the co-owner of Hat Creek Construction. He is my cousin. He has an incredible construction background. He's also, even though we didn't talk about it in this, he's also the current AGC president for the North region, Associated General Contractors president, doing an amazing job in that realm as well. This company is special because of Weston, and we're really excited for you guys to get to know him a little better in this episode.
Welcome to the North State Rocks podcast. Discover the hidden gems and extraordinary people of California's North State region. Join Perry Thompson, CEO of Hat Creek Construction and Materials, as he explores the vibrant communities and interesting neighbors that make our region a great place to live, work, and play. Tune in, be inspired, and rediscover the North State. This is your community. This is your story.
Hey, thanks for being here, cuz.
Thanks for having me.
So, North State Rocks podcast, Perry Thompson, Weston Hutchings, the co-owner of Hat Creek Construction. It's been a while getting this put together so we could actually have our schedules aligned and get this done. So, really appreciate your time and being here. So, I want to start with just a little bit of your background, Weston. I think a lot of people know a lot about our company, know a lot about, kind of what I do, what you do, but I don't think as many people really know your background. And I want an opportunity to kind of just tell us a little bit about how you came from Fall River. We went to school. We're 8 years apart, so you're 8 years younger than me. We're cousins, so my mom and your dad are siblings. So that's one of the things I kind of wanted to remind everybody that this is a family-owned business, and we're really proud of that fact. And then you interned with us. Do you remember what year that was? Because
1999. I think 1999.
Crap, we're really aging ourselves now.
Yeah, we're getting in the 90s.
Yeah, but you can still stick me with you're 8 years younger,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
That's the good news. All right, so let's give us your background. Where did you go to college? And then start maybe with that intern experience, and then run through for us.
Perfect. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you alluded to, born and raised here in Fall River. Graduated in 96 from Fall River. I went to Chico State. Thought I was going to go was into agriculture. Had a big ag background with my father being an ag teacher, but really was intrigued by the engineering side of it. And got into my first year, my general ed at Chico State. And after a year of kind of being in the engineering department and seeing what engineers do, and it was going to be a lot of cubicle work, and then I saw that construction management division that was folded in with the engineering department, and they sure looked like they were a lot of fun and kind of my kind of people. And so from that, I switched over into construction management my first year of general ed at Chico State, and the rest has kind of been history. Graduated in 2001 from Chico State.
Okay.
And then from there went on with the construction management degree, was hired by Granite Construction in Reno, Nevada, and worked there from 2001 to 2007, and then took a stint over to a company called Sierra Nevada Construction in Reno, Nevada, and worked there from 2007 to 2009, and then the rest is history. Came here in February of 2009. So what is that? Almost 20. I'm having trouble doing the math here. 20.
Yeah. So is that 17 years?
Yeah, 17 years. Yeah.
God damn, I can't believe it's been.
Yeah. So here we are.
Yeah, here we are. Yeah. Okay. So, a lot of people don't really, you and I were always really close growing up. Mm-hmm. In fact, I remember I still take credit for teaching you how to ride a bike. I remember that at my parents' house, like going down the slope towards the creek. And then kind of that mutual love of all things motorsports and motorcycles, and did a lot of riding together. But I think our friendship really blossomed kind of in the whole I hadn't really been exposed to sand dunes before. And you actually had exposure to it younger, like even high school years.
Right.
And then, again, we loved four-wheelers, we loved motorcycles, we loved all those things. But I can't remember how, I think it was Sand Mountain was the very first time I got exposed to sand. So kind of talk through that a little bit. Just give us a little bit about that, because I'm kind of going down memory lane here myself.
Sure. I think it was probably 2003, 2002, somewhere in there. I think I called you up on a whim and said you were getting into the four-wheelers and you guys were riding in the dirt, and kind of, I said, hey, you really need to come over and check out Sand Mountain. It's only an hour and a half, 2 hours outside of Reno there, outside of Fallon. And I think you came over and brought your enclosed trailer, and you, myself, and my brother John all jumped in together and did a weekend trip out there where we just slept in sleeping bags and kind of road warriored it out there and had a blast and played in the sand. And I think some of the dreaming started that trip. We talked about how nice it would be to, someday have, own our own company, and you being a part owner, and us working for Granite. Would it be cool to, have bigger toys and have the fun things and come out here and play, and just being fresh out of college, you've spent your whole life in debt and excited to get a job, and then not being real smart with money. I was deeper in debt because I finally graduated, and now I had a paycheck that I could afford those toys. So everything was going into toys and having fun and being a kid. And that's where I think a lot of the dreaming and the what if we could put our forces together? That was the infant stage, in my opinion.
I would agree.
From memory.
I would agree. Yeah. And then you've always been, I mean, you just even quoted right there. You've always been an incredible dreamer. Mm-hmm. What do you contribute that to?
I think it was a lot of being around people, especially in college, that always had awesome things, and I think twofold. One, some of them had it because they were born into it and they didn't appreciate it. And then two, I saw other people that were very driven and had set huge dreams, and the ones that were driven are like, why can't I, and being surrounded by some of those people in college, and then early in my career, at Granite, some entrepreneurs that took off, and then watching them kind of set goals and obtain them. I'm like, anybody can do it with a dream, but it starts with a dream, and make your dream big. And then it's the work ethic and the grind and the willingness not to quit. And I think, a lot of people get stuck in, I can't do this, I can't do that, that'll never be me. And, it starts with a dream. You can always shoot for the stars. If you come a little short, look at how much better you are,
Right. Well, yeah, and you've really brought that here even. Always been kind of the biggest dreamer on our team, and why can't we? And it's just been an awesome asset for this whole organization. When I say this whole Hat Creek,
right.
Like why can't we do that? Why can't we have that? It's been an awesome thing. Well, so I wanted to talk a little bit about 2009. So you came here in 2009, and I remember there was a pretty hard press by me to get you here. Mm-hmm. And you were in a Reno market that is at that time was really flew really high when things were going really great, and also would just absolutely crash and burn when things started going bad. And you kind of, I call it kind of the canary in the coal mine that would watch what happens over in Reno, and we would know. We'd always joke in this rural northeastern California where we're always in a recession, right? That's right. It seems like we're always, there's no Home Depots moving to this community. There's no 300 lot subdivisions coming to this community. So it always kind of felt a little bit like a recession. I wouldn't say depression ever, but recession, even when times were good in places like Reno. But I remember you really communicating early about, things are really changing over here. I mean, what we're having to do bid wise. And so can you kind of talk about, what it was like at Granite when things were high flying, and then your move to S&C, and also that move to S&C was, I think we we were hopeful you were still going to come here, and it was kind of I could stick on for 2 more years with a couple more years with Granite, or I could go learn a whole different perspective. So can you talk about the Granite mentality and Granite regime versus, very safe, incredible company,
Yes.
just an incredible company. And then contrast that with S&C, also a very incredible company, but just really contrast the dramatic differences between the two.
Sure. Yeah, I think Granite, I attribute, a lot of my core learning in construction, from Granite. Obviously, I going through college, I interned for some companies. While I was at Chico, I worked for a vertical company and realized I didn't like vertical construction really quickly, but learned a lot.
So for our audience that doesn't know vertical construction, we call what we do horizontal construction, right, which is underground, grading, paving, sure, and then vertical construction. Kind of elaborate on what that means for the audience.
So, buildings, high rises, and the company I worked for was a company called Slater & Son, great company. I learned a ton. But we, at the time, were building, and they were out of Chico, and they were awesome. They let me intern with them while I was going to school. And we built Craig and Auto Parts stores and Big O Tires up and down California. And we managed a lot of subs, self-performed a little bit of work, but really was just kind of a general manager for the owner.
Yeah.
And would move up and down the state doing that work. And so I got a real quick, fast-paced learning curve with how to deal with subs and your mason subs and your roofers and your plumbers and your electricians and you had to know all of the business to kind of run herd on them to make sure they weren't taking you for a ride. And then the best part was the site guys. They were the wild ones that showed up and had all the toys and the diesel and smoke burning and dirt moving and grading and paving and I really learned quickly that I was really more attracted to that heavy civil side, the earth moving and the grading and the paving. So fast forward that on to Granite. Granite Construction hired me over to Reno, and great company. They are really good at recruiting talent, and I found myself coming out of Chico thinking I was pretty well one of the top candidates in the heavy side out of my class, and realizing when I got to Granite they quickly reminded me that I didn't know anything. And kind of had to break me. They said they like the military. They break you down and build you back up. You go to boot camp, and I got surrounded with some really good project managers. Had some good peers that were within 3 to 6 months of getting hired when I did. One of them is now the branch manager of Granite, Chris Burke. He got hired on branch manager of the Reno division. He got hired on within 6 months of me getting hired on. So they were really good at training and building us up, and they're very regimented. Their process is, hey, you're going to do takeoff for 6 months to a year, and then you're going to move on, to an office engineer where you're just managing the paperwork of a job site and the filing and such, and then a field engineer where you're out working with the foreman and you're measuring quantities. So they were, to be a project manager where you're running your own project and financially responsible for it. That's a 7 to 10 year process at Granite, and I was very fortunate to work with a lot of talented people in the field that taught me a lot, and I absorbed it like a sponge and put in the extra hours of being out there with them to learn the field side of it. And then on the backside would then go work the long hours in the office after everybody went home doing the paperwork side of it. Right. And was kind of like, hey, I'm ready. Give me the reins. And Granite's like, yeah, you think you're ready, but you're not ready, Right. And so I think it just wasn't moving fast enough. And looking back, that's typical for Granite. They're really good at hiring type A, blow and go. I want to, I'm ready to run the show people. And, if they hire 10 of them and 7 of them leave, they call it the 7-year itch. About within 7 years, they either, hey, you need to promote me, or I'm going to go do my own thing. Excuse me. That's what they're good at. So, about year 7, 2007. So 6-7 years into my career, started talking to you kind of, we're getting ready to have our first child, 2007, Haley. Looking at we'd had our first school shooting over in Reno. What happened a year or two before that? They were starting to talk about, security guards and metal detectors. And I know where you and I grew up, beautiful area here and great school. And it was really important that I raised my kids, if not here, in an environment like that. And so that was probably the biggest push was, working backwards and then, talking to you and how do I get home and how do I grow up where we grew up. You kind of got to go away and to really, because I said, I'm never coming back to this town. This was Mayberry, and there's a huge world out there. Bye.
Same. Yeah.
And then you go out on your own for a while, and you realize, where we grew up was special.
Yeah.
And what's really incredible is being able to live where we grew up and make a living like we make, and be able to do that. It's like winning the lottery. It really is.
It is.
So that was what, kind of transitioned into going to Sierra Nevada construction. I think I got it all figured out, but this is me self-coaching myself. Am I only as good and successful as the people that I'm surrounded by, the foremans, the superintendents that are supporting the projects that I'm managing. And Sierra Nevada construction was two managers of Granite left Granite in Reno and bought Sierra Nevada construction. I'm not the exact year, but I'm going to say 2004, 2003, somewhere in there, and took it from an $8 million a year company at the time to 120, 150 million in like a 5-6 year span. I mean, just incredible growth. And so they were recruiting a lot of the Granite managers to come over and work for them. They ran like Granite, but they were way more aggressive in how they ran, and they ran leaner, and they gave a lot of young people quick responsibility. And so that to me was attractive. And then also, do I know this business well enough to be able to run with way less support and make those decisions on my own? So it was a good challenge for me, good stepping stone that, I thought someday I would end up at Hat Creek. Did I know it was going to be 2 years of S&C and then we'd end up here, or 5 years or 10 years? There wasn't really a timeline. You and I were just discussing that. And then that crash of, when the economy kind of crashed in 2009. And I think that really put a full court press on, they were laying off people right and left. You guys had an opportunity here, a need, and we just started talking. And I think that's what came full circle. I wanted to make sure that I stepped down at S&C to come over here and hopefully give someone a position that they didn't have to lay another person off. And so it was a win-win. But I two great companies, two totally different companies, but I attribute a lot of what I have in my toolbox is attributed to Granite Construction and Sierra Nevada Construction, both great companies.
Yeah, when you're talking about support, right? So you're saying, it's less support over at S&C. So kind of elaborate on that for the people that don't really understand what that means. In my mind, S&C expects a lot of their project manager. They expect you don't really have a project engineer and a field engineer, and maybe your foremen aren't quite as good as when I say good, as full well-rounded as they are at Granite. I mean, they're all good, but requires more effort so kind of contrast the hours you were working at Granite and then kind of what you rolled over and just a little bit about that S&C life. Because, I feel like it really, as foundational as Granite was for really building you right. I think your aggressive and entrepreneurial spirit really came a lot from S&C also, right?
100%.
So can you just talk us through that just a little bit, please?
Yeah, you nailed it. Granite was very regimented. A typical work week at Granite was when we were really busy, you might work 60 hours a week, maybe 70. I mean, when we're really busy, you had to go, and you had to go in on the weekends once in a while to do some paperwork. S&C's model when they hired me was, hey, you are a project manager. You're going to run multiple jobs. Maybe you'll have an engineer part-time, maybe an intern. So you got to be able to do everything from the ground up as far as the management. And we expect you to go find, bid, and build minimum of $15 million a year. And that's your goal for the company. So if they, each project manager is giving, finding, bidding, and building $15 million a year. And this isn't 2007.
I was just going to say 15 million then would probably equate to 25, 30 million now.
Yep.
Check?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so the difference, Granite, you might be on a job that's, I was on a job prior to that was 35 million in 2005. It's probably, like you said, 70 million a year, 70 million in today's market. But, we were camped on that job for 3 years and you just rinse and repeat, do the same thing until you see it through. at Sierra Nevada Construction, you had a job. I had a job in Spanish Springs building a water tank. I had a job in Carson City doing a road rehab.
It's about as far apart as you can be.
And then I had the South Lake Tahoe Airport. And so you would be literally, you wake up at 5 and 4:35, you're on the road by 6, you're hitting the jobs, visiting with one foreman, superintendent, we good, make sure everything's lined out. Then you'd be on down to the next one. The next one was running at night, so you'd be talking to him, kind of catch him, either in the afternoon later, and then talking to him at night. You'd be splitting your shifts at night with them. And you in South Lake Tahoe dealing with that. And that's one way, that's a 2.5 hour drive to South Lake Tahoe, not counting all the stops along the way. So yeah, you're going to work at 5, 6 in the morning and getting home, taking a power nap, and then going to check on the crew at Carson City at night until midnight, 1 in the morning, and then eventually that catch up with you. And then you might have a third day you sleep in for a little while, but you're still up by 7 or 8. And then on the weekends, you're bidding. And so everybody would come in nobody told you had to be on a Saturday, but you knew if you were going to produce, you were in there on Saturday estimating. But the cool thing is you were doing it with the team.
Right.
So it wasn't just you in there by yourself, poor me, the whole team was in there doing it. And so it just became a culture. And we are with a bunch of ass kickers, and this is what ass kickers do. And then the owners are in there, and they're in there grinding away right along with you. They're in there watching. Everybody had the owners had TVs in their offices, not everybody, but they had a couple TVs in their offices, and they were huge NASCAR fans, and they'd have the NASCAR race going, and they'd be in there just ripping on a Saturday, ripping on a Sunday. And that's, but that's how you take a company from 8 million to 150 million in 5 years.
That blows my mind with how they scaled so quickly. Because just in the growth challenges we've had, just the systems and processes and those things that they're not sexy, they're not fun.
No,
it's like nails on a chalkboard to me. Getting those systems and processes and SOPs and those things that are so critical. I'm just blown away at what those guys accomplished with such a short time.
And was it perfect? No, it was a lot of the things that were I saw a lot of similarities in our growth that they were going through. I've seen a grown man that I respected very well. 6 o'clock at night, sitting at his desk, bawling his eyes out, he's just at his wit's end. He's frazzled.
Right.
And I think that's part of the growth pattern is that's some of the stuff you deal with and the attrition and the fallout along the way. But once again, how big of a dream do you have and how hard do you want to chase it? Right.
Right.
And the owners there, one thing they did well was they let us all see the goal and the dream. And along the way, they made it fun. Yeah, we worked our asses off, but hey, they put us on buses and took us all down to NASCAR in Vegas, and rented in the infield out and turn 2, and had RVs set up, and we camped, and all expenses paid. And you want to talk about dreaming, watching one of the owners fly in off from the wind, come in on a helicopter, and land, and get out and then come over and visit with us and hang out with us for the day at a NASCAR race, and then get on the helicopter and fly back to the Wynn Casino. I'm just wired that way. I'm like, I want to be that guy. He did it.
Right.
He's no different than me. He puts his pants on just like me, one leg at a time. And I watched him go from, working at Granite, being a manager, to buying a company, taking risks, laying it all out on the line, working their ass off. And he's flying in on a helicopter, 7, 8 years later. That doesn't motivate you, then you're probably in the wrong. You're probably not an entrepreneur. And I'm not saying there's other ways to get motivated, but
Absolutely.
That's one example of it can be done.
Yeah, and there's people that see that and are willing to risk it all. Mm-hmm. And the flip side that people don't talk about is, for every guy that comes true, there's a handful or more that go up in a ball of flames.
Sure.
Right. It doesn't, there's that mindset that's absolutely critical. There's a lot of luck that goes along the way. There's a lot of knowing how to attract and have people buy into that dream, and also make the dream the dream can't be about just him, right? So what he was good at and his other partner was good at is making the dream, everybody's being lifted, right?
Correct.
A rising tide raises all boats type of thing. And I think that's what separates the good from the great.
Right.
And so, yeah. Okay. So great. That was great, Weston, on your background. Thank you. So 2009, I still remember we were bidding a wind farm job. There was no work. There was no work anywhere. And for those youngins that follow this podcast, 2009 is probably the closest thing to a real depression that this country's had since probably the depression in the 30s. They don't realize how bad it was. I mean, just incredible foreclosures, people losing their homes, people losing their jobs, people really, really struggling. Like since 2009, I don't think we've seen anything close to that. Was that fair? Fair. Yeah. So 2009, you come over, there's very little work. There's a big wind farm project that we're working on. So kind of talk us through. I remember we were estimating that, and the good news is we're non-union. We were bidding against a couple of union firms. And I remember specifically talking about the margin that we thought we could get on the project. And the internal team that you were fairly new to, we were having the discussion that, we thought that our advantage was X, and what we really needed this work. And we say advantage, the advantage on labor dollars is what we're really talking about. And we'd had an estimating program, and so we knew what our total labor dollars were, and the delta between union wages and non-union wages, and we felt like we could maybe get half of that. And we were talking about putting half of that into the bid at the time. And I remember you going, guys, I just left Reno. We should be just grateful. I think we should put 0 on that, because we just need the work so goddamn bad. If we don't get that, what's going to happen? And I remember really agreeing with your assessment, but also we hadn't seen it yet like you had. You'd been blood in the water over there at S&C. In fact, I think you did S&C a real solid when you stepped out, because they were starting to lay people off dramatically. And you saw your friends being laid off every week, and you're like, hey, I'm going to accelerate moving to Hat Creek and save one of my friends for at least, a few weeks. That was part of your motivation. Is that accurate to say?
Fair.
Yeah. And so anyway, the good news is you came over here with that fresh perspective. I think we ended up doing that half part, and because not really realizing how bad it was, and probably lucky that we did. We needed every dollar on that job, but holy crap, we're looking at our yearly revenues. I think our biggest year prior to that was $22 million. In 2009, we did $22 million, by the way. Was our worst year ever. That was our biggest year and worst year financially. Didn't know what we didn't know. Thought just getting big for the sake of getting big was going to make us money. Learned the hard way. That's not true. But 2009, all said, when did you arrive into? Was it spring, right?
February 2009.
Yeah. So kind of right when the middle of that bidding, and then going and executing on that. Can you kind of just talk us through your first year in 2009, what that was like, or coming from where you were coming from?
Well, I mean, you hit the nail on the head when you guys were talking about putting margin, your advantage. You think you had an X advantage, and you were thinking about taking 50% of that X advantage and adding it to your, hey, here's our flat number we want on the job for profit. The world I came from, we were putting negative. So if the job was $2 million was our cost, and in a normal markup year, when things are good, you're putting 10% on it for round numbers. So you're putting a $200,000 markup on that.
Right.
We were bidding at a negative 2%, negative 3%. So if our direct cost was $2 million, we were bidding at $1.8 million in hopes that we could go get change orders and make that up in change orders and things, and hopefully turn it into a break-even job, or hopefully, if you killed it, a little bit of profit. That's how bad the market was that I came from. And, that's after equipment rates have been cut. That's after, they're starting to just put the fuel in the equipment, going, we own the equipment for the short term. We're just not going to pay ourselves for the equipment. I mean, that's how bad it was in Reno. And a lot of companies went bankrupt. I mean, a lot of them. And so, it was very hard for me coming from that world of, you guys are very shielded and isolated up here from what the real world's seeing out there. And you coined the phrase, we're always lagging behind in this region, and you are. And it just hadn't hit here yet, but it came shortly after. So we were very fortunate to land that windmill project. And then the good and the bad. The great was I'm off the freeway. I'm off the big 395s, I-80s, night work, working beautiful woods, true smell of trees. And I mean, just pinch me. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that we get paid to be out here doing this from working on the big city work that I was on. The flip side is we were always behind on that project. They wanted to work 7 days a week. And I don't think I've ever worked harder than that year and a half we did on the windmills, all of us. I mean, it was no matter, I don't care if it was snowing, raining, mud, they wanted it stripped off, plowed. They wanted the base rock done. We got towers showing up. We got windmills that need to go up. We got foundations that need to be poured. You're holding us up. Why isn't the road built? And I don't, 2 feet of snow went down. Plow the snow off. Let's go. I've never met a company or an owner that literally pushed so hard as those guys did.
Yeah, and the whole time they're pushing too. It wasn't, hey, we'll pay you whatever you want to get paid. They were simultaneously push, and we're not paying you anything extra.
Yep.
Right? I don't care that it snowed. I don't care that you have to plow. We paid you. I don't remember how we were getting paid. Were we getting paid? I think we're getting paid by because I remember on the base rock, we put in GPS because they would core the depth to make sure that the rock that they paid for was there. So we were using GPS to make sure that we weren't overrunning on rock, but we also couldn't underrun on rock because they were going back and checking our depth. So must have been paying us by the mile.
I think they're paying by the mile or by the foot. But it wasn't by the ton, obviously.
It wasn't by the ton, obviously.
Yeah.
And so that was a wild project. Yeah, a lot of people don't. And then I want to say that our total revenues that year was like 9.9 million, and like 9.5 of it was from that wind farm.
Yep.
And if we wouldn't have that wind farm, even though you're right, it was an absolute bitch, I'm not sure what would have happened to this company.
I don't know. That was the stars aligned. And a funny story of the wind farm. I love the story of your dad. I remember we were out there. It was so cold. I mean, we're in coveralls. We got face masks on, and it's we're plowing snow off, and we're slicking off the mud so that we can roll fabric and dump base. And it's 8, 9 o'clock at night. I think just for a morale booster, your dad jumped in one of the belly dumps and come down the hill. And as he went by the whole crew, he's got his hat hanging out the window, waving it, going, yeah, let's go. And he's cheering everybody on like Patton, And I mean, we all laughed our butts off, and that was a huge morale booster. That's a perfect example of leadership where, you're really kind of feeling sorry for yourself and out there kicking rocks, and then here comes the owner of the company driving a belly dump, excited as hell that we're just doing something,
right.
Realizing that we're in probably the worst economic time that he's probably ever seen in his career, and he's seen some bad ones since 1972, and he's just grateful that we have a chance to actually go maybe even fight for some money or build them, right? So just different perspective that was really good to witness and be a part of. But that I'm very glad we bought GPS. That was back when GPS was relatively new. I've probably been out 5 or 6 years and was really starting to catch on over with the companies we were working with. And funny story for the viewers, that what sold us was we were pretty skeptical, and the salesman came out and he buried a quarter in the dirt, and then he topoed it, basically marked the spot, and then he busted everything down, reset up on the control points, and walked over, 500 yards, and then walked back and found the quarter in the dirt. And I went, holy moly.
Yeah.
We've got to get up on this technology. And so being able to transition to that and staying up with technology, that was a big shift for this company, you know, being used to kind of setting your ways in the old school ways that, hey, the world's changing. Right. And we need to stay up with technology. I think that was the start of the big shift. We need to invest and really invest in technology and get ahead of this. Yeah.
So let's talk about, so for the viewers, this east side where we're here now, we're here at the Bernie office right now. And we, prior to Weston coming here in 2001, we got our first permit for an asphalt plant, concrete plant, first EIR, environmental impact report, done in Shasta County. It took 7 years to permit this facility. Absolutely ridiculous amount of money, unbelievable amount of money. The ironic thing is because we had aggregates is why we got the wind farm.
Yep.
And the base rock came from here. The concrete came from here. Because the economy was so bad, we rented a bunch of 3D trucks, 3D concrete trucks out of Reno.
Yep.
And we were sending, this blows my mind now, but we rented a big high production concrete plant, a portable concrete plant.
Out of Battle Mountain,
and rented a bunch of trucks from those guys. I mean, the amount of risk that we took is just incredible. And then rented a bunch of trucks, and we were sending those foundations were around 450, 500 yards per pour, and one monolithic pour.
Yep.
All had to be there in one day. And they tried to set up a plant up on the project, the owners did. And again, Shasta County, because of EIRs and all the stuff that they require, said, no, Hat Creek has a permit for a concrete plant. There or Packway, those are your two options.
Right.
And so in one way it protected us, but in the other way, we learned that's a terrible way. Getting permitting from the ground up is tough, and you better have a huge bankroll, which we didn't have at the time. It saved us, but then in comes Weston in 2009, and kind of tell them your Miller's custom work story.
Well, I think it starts with, I challenged myself when I came into Hat Creek that, I don't know their work. I know the work that I've done in Reno. I've worked in Nevada. I've worked for NDOT. I've worked for RTC. A lot of my work's been downtown city work. Our bread and butter here at the time was PG&E work. It was
Rose, Sierra Pacific,
logging roads, forestry, Forest Service. And then obviously the wind farm. I think the wind farm was probably a pretty big project for us to take on. Prior to me coming here. And so just learning the crews and learning the people. And I realized that.
Well, and I'm actually going to stop you. The year that we lost, we did $22 million.
Oh, yeah.
And we lost our ass. So that was the biggest job in company history. I want to say that was 12 or 13 million on Highway 44. And it was a Caltrans job. And we had just gotten our nuts kicked in on that project. It didn't go well. Right. I mean, we lost a lot of money on that job. And that was another moment we nearly lost the whole company. So there was a lot of, the rock here is not ideal for making high level aggregates for Caltrans projects. And so there was a lot of fear around jumping back into Caltrans work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
Yep. And so coming here and realizing, we had talented people. We just needed to move the needle, in my opinion, to that Caltrans work that, a world you came from when you were at Tykert, a world that I knew very well from my tenure at S&C and at Granite. And then I had people that I could network with that, we could slowly start plucking, but we had to get the work. So it's the chicken or the egg.
Right.
If you land the Caltrans job, go find the people. If you don't have the job, the people won't come.
Right.
And I remember discussing with you that, the first Caltrans job we landed was on, ironically, Highway 44, Poison Lake. And, we picked that job off. And and we were the talk of the North State. We were the Hat Creek just bought off another job. We beat Steve Manning, who at the time was the player of players up here, and then nobody could beat him. And we beat him, and he was. And I think, did he have the pit set up at the D mine, the portable sub D mine? Or did he move that in later? I think he moved that in later as a sub to us, didn't he?
Yeah, I think. No, I think he landed the big 44 overlay job was what got him there. So I'm trying to remember.
He subbed to us for paving. That's what it was.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So we got big Steve Manning up here, who's literally he could literally hit the job from where he's setting up his portable asphalt with a rock, and we beat him.
Right.
It shouldn't have happened.
No.
Were we a little hot? Sure. I'm sure we were. But that job allowed us to kind of reach out to some of the people I knew over in Reno and go, hey, I got a good job. Because remember, Reno's still just kind of coming back. It's still bleeding. It's not even coming back yet,
No.
I think we picked that job up in 2010, somewhere in there. The next year after we'd kind of finished the windmills. And so there's a lot of people that aren't working and very talented people. And so being able to recruit some of those guys to come over and help us. And then, in my opinion, Caltrans work, NDOT work, it's a different spec book, but it's still kind of the same animal. And then, and so I think that was kind of the start to, that's the world that I knew. And let's have a hybrid of, hey, let's continue to do the logging roads. Let's continue to work for Roseburgs and the PG&E, but let's diversify a little bit. Let's go dabble back into this Caltrans market and some of these big public entities. And that's the world that I came from. And so then, take that where I remember we were driving to Reno one day. I think we were going over to meet a client or something. And we're on our way back. We'd been over to Reno, met a client, you and I, were in the pickup driving back. And I asked you, how well do you know Jim Miller? Miller's Custom Works in Susanville. And Perry's like, hey, actually, we know him pretty well. You'd said we've done a lot of work with him. And my father knows him real well. And we get along great with him. I said, well, when I worked for Granite, we just scratch our head why we would be able to pave in downtown Susanville when he has a plant sitting right there, out by the prison off of Center Road. And we're trucking the asphalt all the way from Reno and beating him. Why? How is that happening? And I think that once again, you and I started, hey, maybe we should swing in and visit with him and just, see what he's planning on doing with it. And so we just unannounced showed up to his office. And I remember just like it was yesterday, walked in there and he took our meeting and we asked him, what are you going to do with the place? And he said, I'm interested in talking about selling it. And that kind of started the whole next step into getting into more of the materials that we knew was good rock that could support the work that we wanted to chase with the Caltrans work and the paving. And, back to dreaming. Another good person that lives over in Reno, has his own company, been very successful, Rich Bunning, at the time owned RHB, and he would show up to bid openings in a yellow Ferrari, and his license plate said, I pave. And I remember telling you want to turn cash fast, we got to get into the paving market. Every time you pave, nowadays it's $250,000 a day changes hands in revenue. It's high reward, high risk.
Yep.
But if you want to start really
low margin. But a lot of dollars turn in a day. And so even though it's low margin, it's a lot of margin.
Yes.
On a daily basis.
Yes.
That's what a lot of people don't understand. They think that it's laced with an incredible amount of money. And I would say that it's actually some of the lowest margin work we do. But you're right. It's that turning that big amount of cash. Again, percentage wise, low margin, but gross wise on a daily basis, pretty big numbers. Right.
Yep. And so fast forward, we figured out, how to get Miller's to come to the table, came up with an offer that we could agree with. And, ironically, like you tell, their bank and our bank were the same bank and everybody was hurting. And I think our bank, we had no business buying a quarry and a asphalt plant. We didn't even have a hot plant operator. We didn't have anybody. We didn't have a paving crew. I don't even think we had a big enough paver to pave with the main line. I think we just had a little Lee-Boy paver.
8-foot Lee-Boy paver.
So in 2009, 2010, what did we buy Miller's? 2010?
Very into 2009.
Okay.
Yeah.
In 2009 was, no
kind of
work.
Step one, because we ended up buying them in multiple steps. We were just going to buy just the asphalt plant. That was the first thing. We purchased just the asphalt plant, and then he's like, well, I really need to sell the quarry also. The quarry is going to be less valuable without the asphalt plant, and the prices were very good. I mean, that is the one. The bad thing about bad economies is people are losing jobs. There's a lot of horror going on, and everybody's running for the hills. The flip side of that is there's also a lot of tremendous opportunity. And we were able to get that acquisition, significantly less than if it was in a great economy. But the flip side of that is we also had we were leveraged already, crazily leveraged. We had a line of credit that we was like virtually always tapped. I remember holding checks to make payroll, and now we're going and buying a business that's a multi-million-dollar business. And the only reason the bank agrees to it is because our bank was his bank at the time. And they're like, well, pretty certain he's not going to make the payment here in the next few months. And Hat Creek, don't know if they're going to, but they haven't missed a payment yet. So I think we're going to take a bet on them. That's probably the only reason. But then quickly that became very quickly. So kind of talk about, I remember, I think our first real paving job out of the Richmond Road, right? The county job?
No. The first real paving job was over in Portola.
Oh God, how could I forget that?
Yeah, I tried to forget it.
Let's talk about that.
Well, backing up one step, we buy that plant. We don't have a person that can operate it.
Okay, so help me with that. I thought we hired Steve Forty before we even had the plant.
We were looking. I'm getting my stories mixed up. So we were talking about buying that plant, and taking it over to the 97 job.
Right.
That fell through, and then we hired Steve Forty anyways, and then we ended up buying the plant. You are
yes.
So
yes.
we bought a jockey before we had a horse.
we had a guy that was really good at operating plants without a plant.
Yes. Yeah. So okay, you are correct, but we didn't have a paving crew.
No, we did not.
Or the paving crew. So we went on a full court press, and then now that we have full court press of getting a paving crew, we kind of went around and gathered up some of Jim Miller's old paving crew, and then hodgepodge some of the guys here that had a little bit of paving experience, and put together what we thought was a paving crew. And how hard can it be? Shit, we used to do it all the time over in Reno. I managed lots of paving. I thought I was the paving guru. Yeah, little did I know. We at this time we'd landed a couple good public work jobs, Calchan's job, and then some other ones, and then we were working on a Portola job, and some of those talented people that we'd gotten from Reno that were working for us, Martin Davies, some of them, went over and helped us build that Portola job, and we were doing really well. I mean, the dirt side of it, the underground side of it, the concrete side of it
was all going really well.
The job was ahead of schedule, making good money, and I think in 3 days of us paving it, from Susanville to Portola, we were sending trucks. If I remember correctly, we lost about $100,000 in 3 days trying to pave it ourselves, that I was in charge of. Just because, I literally attacked it like I would with a seasoned veteran Granite Reno crew or S&C crew. And I think at one point the owner got mad and threw his hands in the air. It was like 9:00 at night. And we had like 20 trucks sitting on the grade and been sitting there for 3 or 4 hours. And the first day of paving went into the night. We didn't have lights for the paver. Everybody was just using their flashlights and their cell phones. We were towing the paver with a grader and a chain because it was getting stuck, because we were trying to pave 18, 20 foot wide. Didn't have extensions, didn't have auger extensions to feed out there. And I think we got off the road at 2 a.m. the first night, and then trucks loaded at 6 to be back paving again at 7:30 the next day. So that was kind of the first deep dive for Weston and paving. And I remember thinking, man, it wasn't this hard in Reno. I don't understand why this is so hard. So some of that was me being a little aggressive, and a lot of it was we just didn't have the right people in the right seats. And then after a little bit of, scratching our head and, there's back to that dream, I knew I wanted to pave. I knew we wanted to pave. We have a hot plant.
Right.
Are we going to let a $100,000 speed bump deter us? No.
Yeah, and it's hard for people to understand. I mean, $100,000 is a lot of money for anybody. I don't care who you are. And I don't ever want to say, like, today, if it was $100,000, that it wouldn't be, a horrible thing. I mean, you and I our whole team is oriented around, not making mistakes that cost the company money. But to put $100,000 in perspective back then for us, like trying to get our feet off the ground, debt leveraged out to our ass, finally have a job that's making money up to that point. And when you say making money, I mean, maybe we were 100 and a quarter ahead, and then we pretty much gave it all back on those 3 days,
right.
like that. And
Yep.
we were just devastated. I mean, just like
crushed.
a chance to get maybe a step ahead
Right.
of the drowning. I remember you just feel like the water is here and, you're just about to start drowning. You're like, you just feel like you're there all the time. And it's hard for people to really understand what it felt like then. And I remember you calling me, like in tears, like, dude, like this is the end of the world.
Right.
This could be, I'm not gonna say game over, but like we finally are getting ahead, and it's just like somebody just fucking kicked the stool out from underneath us, and then we're just back to square one, back to almost drowning again overnight.
Very disheartening. Very much sit on a Sunday in a hammock and lay there and look at the sky as the clouds are flying over, going, do I got what it takes to, and it wasn't just me, it was all of us, but I'm the one that was like, we can do this, that really wanted to chase this dream and got you and your dad revved up that this is where we need to go. And then now it's kind of like, shit, all eyes on me. You're the one that said you could do this. You were helping too. You came from that world too, but you guys were in your own little niche. You guys had your little mark, had the market, you had your repeat clientele. And I'm like, we should pivot. Yeah. I want to go chase this. And I want, you could have said no. But I think we all knew that, that to grow, that we needed to diversify. And so, yeah, I just remember sitting there going, man, is this ever going to work? It's like one step forward, two steps back, one step forward, two steps back. And then fast forwarding from that to the Richmond Road project you were talking about, I remember calling you because then we'd recruited some better talent to help with the paving, needed a really good lead foreman that had some paving experience that could lead some greener guys. And I remember we took off paving and I remember sending you a video and I just had tears running down my face because I'm like, we're finally doing it. Like look at this. We are paving right now. And months and months and months of, beating your head against the wall and trying to figure out how to get the right people and everything lined up. And then to see it actually happen was such a cool feeling. So awesome. And then, and then just fast forward that, that growth from there on as the company evolves and, start attracting more and more talent and, people come, some retire, some decide they want to go work for a different company. But it seems like every time someone left the company for a retirement reason or they decided to do something else, we always upgraded. We never downgraded. We had a few come in that didn't work and we figured that out quickly. But I'd say for the most part, whenever someone came on, we stepped up. And I think a lot of that was seeing us grow and be successful and creating that attraction and then continuing to get work. And, we're still coming off of the down economy. Everybody's hungry and wanting to chase it. And here we are aggressively getting after it. And I will say back in the day, we did a lot of aggressive things, some things by design and some things didn't know what we didn't know and learned the hard way. And, so you definitely, one thing this business teaches you how to do is if you miss something or you screw it up, you learn how to get really creative to go fix it. Go cover up that mistake and not, or figure out how to rob Peter to pay Paul. Hey, we missed that in the bid. We're going to lose 50 grand, but if I work really hard over here, I'm going to make that 50 grand back on this item, And so instead of just feeling sorry for yourself and writing 50 grand off. I think that's one thing that this company and all of us do really well is we're always trying to figure out how to go faster, make more money, and do it safely.
Yeah, and I think you did a really good job of kind of describing that that first kind of S curve at that 09, 10, 11, where the company really got a foundation around consistently paving well, grading well, doing things well, doing more and more Caltrans work, kind of phasing out of at that time, spotted owl and pressures in the forest were lumber pricing. Everything else was kind of pushing us out of our niche.
Right.
And there was more stability, I guess, in more of the Caltrans world and more growth opportunity in the Caltrans county grading, paving type of stuff. And then slowly Ward Lake, that's what we call our Susanville operation, Ward Lake, quickly yet slowly became kind of the golden goose of the whole company, and to this day is probably the most important location that we have. So now talk a little bit about, so there's that S curve, right? So it's real crazy and the growth is killing us. And then I feel like we kind of did that normal S and things starting to stabilize. And then, from probably say 2017, where we start really concentrating internally. And I think that year that was around 07 that we did 22 million, which is our biggest year. And at the end of that year, we owed a paving contractor $2 million and we had no money to pay him.
Wow.
And so I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but through a very, very rough time. To fast forward to, things are comfortable. I would say good, but not yet great. We started talking about, right people, right? We're just kind of reinforcing that right people, right seats. We had, sometimes we'd have the right people, just they want to do their core value fits, everything that's have them in the wrong seats, and had some toxic people, I would say, high performers, but kind of toxic to the culture. So can you talk a little bit about kind of the last, I'd say are we great? No, I would say our company is very, very good. I would put us in that great category most times. What I love about our company is everyone on this team wants to be better. That's that continuous improvement mindset. But I am pretty proud of the last several years going from, I would say, good to a lot of times great, and with still improvements to be made. What do you contribute that to this next S curve that I'd say the company is going through right now?
Well, I think you missed an S curve, in my opinion.
Okay.
And we'll touch on that quickly. We got Susanville going, and then we really were looking at the market on the map of, hey, if you're going to pave north of Susanville all the way to the Oregon border, that asphalt is coming from Reno, Redding, or Oregon, right? And we bid a job on 139 around a pit.
Oh my God, you're so right.
Around a pit that was very, very underdeveloped, had been using forever.
Yeah.
And kind of thought, there's no way we'll get it. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
I want to say it was like 18 million, something like 16 million. It's 16 or 18 million. It was more. It was because at the time it was big.
Shit, I thought it was like 20 million, but it was massive. Massive.
And we bid it around a plant we didn't own.
Yep.
A pit that hadn't been, how long had it been since anybody come out of that pit? It was a county pit.
Yeah, so we acquired it from the county. We had to, we called our Shaw pits above Lookout. Bob Shaw, an incredible old man, had big dreams for that pit. Would call me. He called me like once a week for a year to come look at that pit. Long story short, I went up there, looked at great rock. That's what we've learned through this process. It starts with great rock, but middle of freaking nowhere, like Lookout, California. I'm like, wow, there's no work up here. There's no work. Anyway, long story short, we ended up acquiring that pit. We just basically took it over from Modoc County because they had an unsafe bridge, super unsafe bridge, and they're like, if you guys will take over the reclamation plan and all the responsibility of reclaiming this pit, that we want out, the owner wants us out, and they want the new lease. So we move into that pit, so basically we just had it, but we didn't have an asphalt plant there. We just kind of had an aggregate source and hoping someday something would come along the way. So now go ahead and move on with your story.
Yeah, we have a pit that we taken over from the county that Bob Shaw owned. We released it from him.
Yep.
And we bid don't hold me to it, $18 million job, Caltrans job. Had rubberized asphalt on it. We've never done before.
Yep.
Had cold foam finishing, never done before.
Yep.
And thought, there's no way with that Rocky Mountain or Eagle Peak. Those two are going to drop bombs on each other, and we're going to be third.
Eagle Peak can really be cheap at the time in Alturas, and we really thought it was kind of their job to lose. And then if they happened to be high or not bid it, which all indications were they were bidding it aggressively, that Rocky Mountain Construction would be tough to beat because they're very inexpensive operating costs in Oregon, coming right across the Oregon border down into California, which they had done well. Really thought we would struggle to get that job.
Yeah. And lo and behold, we were low bid.
And not just low bid. How much money did we leave on? I remember.
I don't know. I know it was in the millions. It was over $1 million.
It was right under $2 million. Rounded up, $2 million is what we left on the table. So for audience, leaving on the table means if we were 17 million, the next bidder was 19 million. And that was $2 million that we don't have that we could have had. We could have had another 1.8 million on there, right?
Yep.
And to revamp, we have no asphalt plant, right? We were gonna go find one and move it in.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have an asphalt plant, didn't have the pit really ready for an asphalt plant.
No.
Didn't have a lime treat plant.
No.
Yeah.
Had to put a bridge in to get all this equipment across the river.
Yep.
And all this had to happen in about 4 or 5 months, I think, getting ready for the summer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was a full court press to find an asphalt plant, which you guys flew down to Southern California, found one and purchased it.
Yep, used Gencor 400 plant from Skanska.
Yep. Get it up here, get the bridge in to get the plant over the river, and set up, get the floor space made to set the plant up. You want to talk about, like you said, take cash, light it on fire, and throw it out on the woodpile in wheelbarrows. We were doing that. I mean, we thought we had that accounted for in the bid. We were not even close.
Well, and I think we're really good at estimating what it costs to build work, right? So, but that is assuming the quarry is all set up. But so we put together what we thought it would cost to, build the floor, buy the plant, move the plant up. About the only thing that was within budget was what we paid for the plant.
Right. But
what we didn't know, we got up, the plant had massive electrical problems. The control systems wouldn't work. We had a third-party electrical electrician subcontractor up there that we were spending I don't know, $20,000-$30,000 a week with them on trying to gut all the electrical and redo the electrical. Fortunately, we had the other S-curve we had going on at the exact same time.
We were down south.
As we were doing a federal highways job. God, dude, the amount of risk that we would take on, we really analyze risk differently now. Now that we have something to protect.
Yep.
At that time, we just had a lot of debt and a lot of ambition. But so on that federal highways job, we'd gotten a single quote for asphalt that was just obscenely expensive. I mean, like double what it should cost. We thought it should be, if they were what we could produce it for, even at our market value, it would be a $65 a ton mix. And I think our quote was like $125, $130. And we, this Tony, give Tony credit for this. He found an asphalt plant that hadn't been running for 3 years, chased down who owned it, and met with the owner, flew down, met with the owner, and talked them into leasing us their plant. Mm-hmm. And we sent our operator and another guy down to help get that plant going, and decided to make our own asphalt for a federal highways job, and from Ridgecrest and truck it up to Lone Pine. That was happening while we were buying this plant, moving it up there. So the good news is, what I joke about is that we were making great money. That fortunately went our way. A lot of things could have gone not our way on that. That went well. Tony managed it well. Our teams managed it really well. And I would joke that we would load dump trucks full of cash on that job, haul it up to the shop pit, back up, light it on fire, and burn it down at the shop pit. Getting the plant up and running. And then when we were finally get it running, we would run for you, load up all the trucks, like you're talking, have 20, 25 trucks lined up. We're finally ready to go start paving. Hour into it, the plant would take a shit. We'd sign all the trucks out. Fortunately, the economy was still not great at that time, if you remember.
Yep.
Truckers were getting pissed.
Yep.
They were just trying to make money, totally had empathy for that. But all of us were trying to survive. So we had this start, stop thing. Oh my gosh, an insane amount of money.
Yeah, and and then the rubber plant caught on fire. I mean, we could go on and on with that whole of our sub that we had, but that project, if you look at the market that we kind of control now, that project allowed us to set up a resource that, for lack of a better term, put an outpost that, hey, we just blocked off Reading.
Yeah.
We just blocked off Reno, and now we just got to work.
Blocked off Oregon,
yep.
Blocked off Reno. And that plant could reach clear to burning now pretty competitively.
Yep.
And really solidified a whole corner of this state,
yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. Huge S-curve moment there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then fast forward again, buying Fitch Road, buying the Eagle Peak was.
And that really, what a lot of people don't understand is that moving that plant into Lookout put a lot of pressure on Alturas.
Absolutely.
Right? Now there's another player in that market. We've been trying to buy Fitch Road for, what year did we buy it? I think 23, right? 22?
Yeah.
22, into 22, right? 12/31/22. But prior to that, we've been talking to them for 12 years.
Yeah.
12 years before that happened. But I think that landing that plant there put a lot of pressure where they weren't just the only game in town. But yeah, so great point there. So then that led to a lot of projects coming out around that plant. Not just that wasn't a one and done job. There was like these rural areas, there's a 10 to 20 year time frame from the time they do a bunch of paving and work and it seems to kind of, the roads seem to kind of, I don't know, degrade at the same pace, and then they kind of have to come and do all that work. We've kind of done all of that paving in that area now, and it's been kind of a long, slow wait for that work to come back. But that was a great catch on your point with that S curve. And then that led to the Aiden projects and, a lot of other really profitable jobs for us.
Yeah, that had we not had those resources set up, we wouldn't have been competitive. And when you get that kind of work, when you're turning that kind of volume, A, that attracts talent.
Yep.
And B, it requires us to get talent, because otherwise we're going to be spread so thin that we're going to have holes so big in the net that money's just falling out of it.
Right.
And so we had the ability to kind of cherry pick the best of the best, and I think on the field side and the management side, and continue to grow our team. And then when people see that you're growing as a company, each year you're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, it's attractive. And then knowing that you have a kind of a isolated market up here that makes it harder, it's guaranteeing that every year we're going to get some work in that market. It's just dictated on how much work Caltrans puts out.
Right.
Because we've got a fence built so big now, it's hard to beat us unless we screw up. We shoot ourselves in the foot.
Right.
So,
right.
And that was by design and kind of dreaming. So kind of going back to that day with, when we went to Ward Lake, that was putting the anchor of the fence down, was getting Susanville. And then we just started building the fence up around and just kind of cornered off this northeastern state that now you say our competitors refer to as Hat Creek land.
Yes.
Yes. Hat Creek land.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, that was a great, so, and then from that, the owner of Eagle Peak called and said, "Hey, I'm finally ready to sell." And he had some great opportunities going on up in Montana and was kind of trying to manage it from afar and was ready to sell. And opportunities like that, it's usually timing, right? For Jim, Jim Miller, it was timing. For him, it's timing. And it's just whether or not in one moment we're not ready. But dreaming, this moment, I would say we were ready for them. We were ready. Really excited to buy that operation. So I want to say very into 22, we bought the Fitch Road operation. And yeah, really kind of tied up this kind of northeastern California area, which we call home. We love this whole area. We love it up here. We call that level 1 work, but we still don't have enough level 1 work in this whole corridor to kind of keep the team that we've built, to keep everybody employed in a way that's important. So we still have to travel to go get work. Okay. So I asked you about kind of that. Do you think, we talk about core values all the time now. Mm-hmm. What do you think a little bit about what do you think that effect has had on the company?
I think it's made it real easy to vet people quickly. Yeah. Number one, if you don't check all 5 of the core value boxes, no matter how talented you are, we know for a fact you won't be a fit here, because it's that important to the company.
Yeah.
I think identifying those core values, and those core values were identified by the members of the company, not by you and I, not you and I telling them what we think Hat Creek stands for. That was brought from within.
Yep.
That we all, I think that everybody had a voice in that and agreed. It aligned us. And based on that alignment, I think they're very proud of those core values, and they believe in them. So therefore, they protect them, and they protect the company based on those core values.
100%.
And so, now it's more important to me that if you have those core values and a good work ethic and a willingness to want to learn, and then bonus, if you can dream, dude, we'll take that. I'll take that guy any day over a guy that's been doing this for 30 years that has a resume a mile long, but he can't check the core values box.
100%.
I just thinking about this. if you're looking at your dream house, you got two ways to look at it. One is, babe, that's my dream house. I'm going to get it. I don't know how we're going to get it. We're never going to be able to afford it, but I'm going to get it.
Right.
Or you go, man, I'd love to have a house like that someday. I'm never going to be able to afford it, so I don't even know why we're looking at it. Who's going to get the house? Who's got a better chance of getting the house?
The dreamer.
Right?
100%. 100%.
Because you've already beaten yourself before you started that you can never afford it. You're never in that market. Yep. So why even put the effort out there?
Right.
Well, there's no difference in what we do at this. Why can't we? Somebody did it. We're not reinventing the wheel here. We're not the wheel. We're not doing rocket science. We're not trying to have a race against Elon Musk and be the next guy to take him on or come up with the next greatest thing. What we've done is pretty simple. It's dirt, rocks, mix it with oil, cement. They've been doing it for thousands of years, right? So set your goals, set your dreams, and go align them and figure out how to do them. And so back to the people, I think that's infectious to people. I think people, when you get around people that think like that, I know it is for me, I get excited, and I think they get excited. I think they start dreaming, and then that carries over to your personal life.
Yeah.
Well, if you're around people that take wild and set wild, hairy ass goals, and then you watch them attain them, then you go, well, why can't I do that in my own life?
Right.
And I think that attracts people, and it makes it really obvious when someone's here that isn't aligned that way or doesn't check those core value boxes. They stand out very quickly. And like you all and I always say, we don't have to let someone go. Usually the team lets them go for us, and then we just are the ones that deliver the message.
Yeah. 100%. We have to do the dirty work, give them the 2 checks, and fire them, but the team fires them long before you and I give them the 2 checks.
Right.
And I love that about our team. And it makes coming to work every day. I'm excited to come to work every day because of this team.
Right.
And, speaking of team, one of the things I wanted to talk about in this podcast is how, I'm in a Vistage group. There's a lot of CEOs in that Vistage group. And, one of the things that's common with most CEOs is it's lonely at the top, right? Really lonely. And one of the things I wanted to share with you is just how much fun I have with you being a co-owner and us kind of doing this together. Mm-hmm. Right? It really, I know we're really good at being devil's advocate for each other, and we call it yin and yanging back and forth. Well, did you think about this? And we're really good about putting our shoes on whatever challenge we're dealing with, looking at it from kind of a 360 perspective, and really being able to process those really difficult, lonely decisions that you have to make as leaders of a large organization, including letting go of really talented people that are your friends that are really talented, but they're toxic, and those very difficult things that you have to deal with, which, knock on wood, we haven't had to deal with in a long time. But there was a time there when we're really growing, and you're seeing as the company grows, sometimes the company outgrows the talents of the people that helped it get to a certain level, if that makes sense. And oftentimes you can reposition those people if they don't have ego, but most people do have ego, and it's really hard for them to transition. Anyway, so I just wanted to say how much fun I've had doing this with you. I get excited to come to work every day. And there was a time I remember, so we're still sitting in my office, a very different office, has been remodeled, but there used to be a couch that sat right there. And I remember taking turns, one of us like tears in our eyes, like, is this ever going to happen for us? And what are we doing here? And we're working so freaking hard and we're not getting anywhere. Is what it felt like so many times. And again, do we have it all figured out now? No. But what I will tell you, there was a time that I was under, and you were too, under so much stress and so much anxiety that there wasn't a lot of fun.
No,
it was massive stress. Are we going to get to the other side of that? And I will tell you, I feel like whatever the other side of that looks like, I'll tell you what it means to me. It means I have a lot of peace.
Right.
And I didn't have that for the longest time anywhere. Well, it doesn't matter if like you're in the grind. I work for Tykerd, you work for Granite. You're living paycheck to paycheck. You're wanting more out of life. What does that look like? That was stress, but it's a whole different level of stress when you're responsible for other people's livelihoods and really wanting this to go well for the team more than you. I think that's what separates great leadership from good leadership is I think a lot of people are what's in it for me and not what's in it for the team. If you want the whole team to win, that's what I love about you. You figured out a way to be a great leader. Let's do it and have some fun along the way. And in fact, for the longest time, this company never even set goals, right? And now we have retreats, we set goals. Let's just contrast a little bit like what we have done just in the last year. We've taken almost 40 people up to the dunes to go screw off for one full week, rented side-by-sides and just do team building and thank you for being such an amazing team. We have had a 3-day strategic retreat in Reno where like, hey, we've done this the last couple of years, but I'm just talking about the last year. We've taken 45-ish people to that retreat and just said, here's the work that we have. The elephant in the room is we've got about half of what we need. We need to figure out how to go get the other half. It's not as close to home as it normally is. We're going to have to travel more. So had a 3-day retreat planning that. We just took 40-ish people down to Con Expo, which was the largest construction expo it happens every 3 years, the largest construction expo in the world. Took 40 some odd people to that. How different is what we do than what we were doing?
No, not even the same zip code.
15 years ago.
Not even the same zip code. And to think back then, if someone would have told you or I that this is what you're going to be doing 15 years from now, that you're going to have a company that can, is geared up to do $100 million a year with the staffing it has, and you're going to be taking, 30 to 40 people on 3 different outings in a year and paying all expenses and everything.
Yeah. And paying wages during that.
Yeah, paying wages during that.
Yep.
And you're going to be excited to do it.
Yeah.
And you're going to, because you understand the benefits of it, you just said, no way.
Yeah.
What are you high? But the reason we do that is we've seen the benefits of it and how much this team will literally, if you said it, I mean, not literally, but if you told them, figuratively speaking, cut your finger off, most of them would. I mean, they wouldn't literally do it, but they would think about it.
Yeah.
And that's not because of a authoritative figure. That's because I don't want to let you down. Like, I feel like we've done a really good job of attracting talented people that are like-minded, that are type A, want to kick ass. And we're going to refer it to, like the Navy SEALs and stuff. They're just different.
Yeah.
You got to be wired different. This shit has to consume you. You have to lay there at night, and you almost have to have a sickness. My wife calls it the sickness. She's like, you're infected. And then she laughs and she goes, yeah, she could look at someone and go, they don't have it. Or she could look at him and go, yep, he's one of you. He's going to be one of those guys that you're going to take on your team. Well, going back to you saying you have a lot of peace. I remember, and Lauren would tell you this, there's a lot of nights I'd be standing in our bedroom in the middle of the night screaming at people, get the pipe in, or where are the trucks? And I'm just dreaming, and I'm full blown stressing out in the middle of the night because that's my subconscious. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And she's like, babe, it's 2 a.m. It's a Saturday, or it's Thursday night, or Thursday morning. You're in your bedroom. Go back to bed.
Yeah.
And I'm full blown. I don't do that anymore. It's nice, but there was a time when we were really stressed out that would happen.
Yeah. Two things I want to go back to. One, I call this team an elite operational team. Like you use kind of Navy SEAL. obviously it's not life and death what we do, but I feel like the logistics and the operational excellence is what we emulate in what the SEALs do. And you're right. Not most people aren't cut out to be on a team like this. And, we've hired some really amazing people, and they start out going, hey, we don't want to let Perry and Weston down because they know us and they spent whatever. I'll tell you, they very quickly go, I don't let the team down.
Right.
This team is incredible.
Right.
And so that's I don't know what that secret sauce is, but I freaking love that about this team, is that everybody has got each other's back, and it's not that's not my job or that's not my responsibility. It's like, if it's got to be done, it's going to be done. And I love that about this team. But you just touched on your wife, and your wife's incredible. My wife's incredible. One of the things that I wanted to talk about that I don't think people think enough about when they go into business together is, what is your marriage like, right? Can you imagine if you and I were dealing with, one of us or both of us dealing with divorces, or with a spouse that didn't support you, or didn't understand and realize how hard this is, and how, I'll tell you that when I can do what I do at the level I do because my wife is my teammate. And I think you and I are both lucky to have teammates like that, because holy crap.
100%. If you had to deal with home life being off, or sometimes it's on, sometimes it's off, plus the stress you have to deal with, you're going to pick one or you're going to pick the other. You can't do both.
Right.
And unfortunately, your job suffers, because if you're a smart man, you're going to make sure to take care of your wife. And so, yes, being blessed with awesome wives that support us and really shore us up on the home life, so that we can be the best us here. I mean, that Lauren's exact words are, my job is to make sure this home is taken care of to the best of my ability, so that when you get home, you can shut it off as much as you can.
Right.
Which we never 100% shut it off. But, being able to just come home and relax, not come home and go, oh, by the way, now you got Saturday and Sunday to do all the shit around the house.
Right.
I'm so spoiled that way.
Yeah, same. My wife spoils the shit out of me. And then the other thing I think both wives are incredible at is, even though we quote unquote shut it off, and probably shut it off better than we used to be able to, it's never shut off. Right. And I know you like me are taking phone calls and dealing with, it doesn't matter if it's a weekend or 9 o'clock at night or 5 o'clock in the morning. There's always that, and what I've never gotten from my wife is, oh, are you kidding me? And she's never copped an attitude about, you kidding me? I mean, she understands, and she, I think, like Lauren, loves this team also, right? And feels like they're part of this team, and which they are. And so, anyway, I just take a moment of gratitude, because thank God we haven't had to deal with any of that.
Right.
Thank God.
No, we've been spoiled, and in return, I look forward to being able to go home and spoil my wife when the time allows it, and we live a great life. I'm very happy with where we're at, but there was a lot of sacrifices paid along the way to get there. And, I think that's a lot of what people don't realize is, what are you willing to take? Leaving Reno, we walked away from a house, had to short sell a house, had to wipe out our credit because things were bad to make this move here. There for a while, we couldn't buy a house. We wanted to buy a house, and so starting over with credit, some of those decisions that we made to, are you willing to pay the price to then turn around and chase the dream, Right. So, and my wife wasn't born and raised in this area. Your wife knows, graduated from here. Lauren, came from Fairfield, and then, just getting her to move to Reno was a huck. And telling her we're moving here, that was a big adjustment for her. She wouldn't trade it for the world now, because where we get to raise our kids and in this community, but
there's no Starbucks, there's no shopping.
There's no.
Yeah. And and both wives did that, coming here and making this home when there wasn't an Amazon.
Right.
right? I mean,
you were the delivery truck.
Yes. I mean, you want it. You're driving to K Falls, Reno, Reno, Redding.
Yep.
There's an hour and a half is the closest that you're going to get to even semblance of something that, most women, that's really important to most women is to being able to, anyway. Yeah. Very, very special. How lucky are we?
Yep.
Very lucky. Yeah. Okay. What else have we not covered that we need to? What are we doing on time here? We're probably, yeah. Okay. So, probably have maybe 5 minutes. So anything that you can think of that we should be talking about that we haven't talked about?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, we kind of did the full circle. I think
we did. Well, buddy, if anything, I guess I want to get across is how much I freaking love doing this with you.
Yeah, ditto. I mean,
it's just it's such a gift to get to have. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, you have my back.
Right. Vice versa.
And I can't tell you. I mean, that's the biggest part of the piece is we've cried together, we've laughed together, we've partied together, we've had the best of times together, and we've had the worst of times together. And, I would say now that we've in this element of peace, I'd say we're a little better at managing risk that we were back in the day. But at the same time, I love that we have never gotten complacent.
No.
And we still have big dreams, and we still have places we want to go, and we still have, we're maybe a little smarter about how we go around about managing risk, but we still will take on risk to get where we want to go. And there's nobody I'd rather be doing this with. So I can't thank you enough.
I agree. I thank you. And I think the message out there to everybody is dream big and surround yourself with other dreamers that are aligned with you, and you'd be surprised what you could accomplish, So
it starts with great people.
It starts with great people, starts with, you and I, the great partnership. I echo everything you're saying. Yeah. It's nice to know that when I go on vacation, I literally could shut my phone off. And if I choose not to answer it for 7 days, I don't have to, because I know that everything is being handled. And then it's usually just out of curiosity, because I can't stand it, that I call.
Same.
And then you're the same way. You're like, how come you haven't called me? I'm like, I'm not calling you. You're on vacation. You're like, but I just want to know what's going on. Well, then you could call me, and then I know you're calling because you're curious. But I'm not gonna bug you when you're on vacation. I got it.
Yeah.
And to finalize with, when you have those huge problems that you have to make a decision, it sure is nice to have someone to be processing those problems and decision making with, and not, like you said, not feel like, I don't know what to do here, because there's ramifications for this. Be able to have that back and forth and dialogue. And then I think we finally, when we go through that process, we go, well, there's the answer. And we both, okay. And then it's aligned. And that's, and then that transitions down to our team.
Yep.
Once we say this is where we're going, I will say this team goes, may not 100% agree with it, but those are our marching orders, and there's no more bitching, and here we go. And they just roll up their sleeves and dive.
And they're 100% aligned behind it.
And they're good at respectfully challenging us.
Yep.
But in the end, when the decision is made, they fall right into row and go, right into order and go. So
yeah. Anyways. Amazing. Yep. Thank you.
I really
appreciate your time.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.